I just want to sort of open it up. So just to understand, what are you guys using in terms of the platform? What are the challenges that you guys are facing? And if there's anything, you would want us to take back to the product team and to sort of give them some feedback. So anybody would like to talk about some of their challenges, day-to-day challenges, things they like doing? Yeah. You have anything?
One of the biggest challenges I'm coming across with every single client, there's the challenge of getting people off paper, which isn't that difficult. You get the old people that will still print off an email to read as a paper.
Yeah.
You're never going to win that one, but you can win the majority. But getting them off email and to use Teams. The big example I've got is I've got a financial advisor and they have an admin team. Email comes in from the insurance firm or the investment firm to the financial advisor, and they're forwarding it to their admin team, who then forward it back to them, who then forward it back to them, who forward it back to them, forward it to the next person. We've got 10 copies.
Yeah.
So I put the automation in. When the email arrives, it goes into the Teams channel that we've created. It goes into the client file. It's very clever. It knows where to go, and he still forwards it to his head. How are you guys getting around that education piece for them of send a chat in Teams rather than, because the automation's done. That's not too difficult.
Yeah. I'll add more complications to that. It's quite common to see that in the financial sector. And I know of a customer who I worked with, and they said, well, we've got emails coming in. Can we build automated emails that go across, right? So automating the email process rather than trying to find a smarter way of implementing that. And also on a side note, I'm sort of doing something on the side. There is a company in Spain called XRM Agile, and they do off-the-shelf like rules engine and business processing and so on. And they've got that challenge, this world challenge, where they got anybody in the world to go and read the set of requirements and to build an application behind it. And we got a bunch of people that participated. And then they can do anything. They can build it using Canvas apps. They can build using model-driven apps or whatever, SharePoint, Dataverse, whatever they feel like. And then basically the challenge is that we'll give you a first level of requirements and we'll give you a second level of requirements and a third one. But you don't have visibility over how complex it's going to get. So start with what you know, and then we'll see if that's going to scale in the future. Just hint, it needs to scale. And the best presenter so far is a guy who's a citizen developer who has only been in the industry for 2 years, very young chap, and he ticked all the boxes, right? And the way he solved that challenge is by making Teams a bit more accessible and enjoyable. And that was one of the scoring factors, is what is the uptake going to look like? Are people going to use it, and so on? So he built the new cards. What is it called? I can't remember the
adaptive cards.
Yeah. Adaptive cards. Yeah. So basically, you can build a one-pager Canvas app that you embed as a card in your Teams chat. So email comes in, it turns that into a card that needs to be actioned. And basically just a little Canvas app that goes into Teams, and then you can go and interact with it, ask for more information, view it, type in the information. And that blew my mind. Like, I know people that have been in industries for decades and they haven't heard of it, and they would never think of doing it that way. And that little kid with 2 years of experience did that mind-blowing experience. I'm like, I need to hire that guy. I need to bring him over to New Zealand. But one of the answers is to make it more accessible and give them what they want. With an email, it's long. You need to go back to understand what the context is. If you can extract this information into something that is quite focused and something that is more case-driven, then that will encourage them to spend less time reading long emails and more time using a collaborative tool such as Teams to be able to deliver that solution.
Yeah. There's two other things I sort of thinking around this sort of problem. One is around sort of change management. and I'm not sure of the scenario whether there was extensive change management done and training, and I'm sure there was encouragement and all that sort of thing. So there's the carrot side of it. There's also the stick side of it, and I don't know who holds the stick to say thou shalt do this, because often, unless there is an incentive or a threat, people will keep doing what they like doing. It sounds like email is comfortable, right? And it's the same thing Annie and Kiri was saying around their change management thing is people are so used to what they have, and we've made email so central to our business process that people still go there. I think from what I've observed in the market since COVID, obviously did a lot of things to us, but also pushed us into Teams far more. People are far more comfortable in Teams than they were then 3 years ago. And so we are getting there, but your email is still seems to be the king.
Head of go with this particular one is the carrot and the stick have been held by the person who's the slowest to adopt any change.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't help.
Yes. A top-down approach is definitely a way to go, where you shall do that. And the important thing is to get them on board by understanding what are the benefits that you're going to get there. A financial advisor or someone with high power, they understand numbers very well. So if you say, hey, if you want to shave 100 hours off your sprint, as I did with my evaluation engine, this is how much efficiency you're going to get by not forwarding that email and then using Teams. And then at that stage, they'll be like, oh yeah, I want to make more money.
It also, there's this security aspect to it, whereas Teams is a close community, right? You can control who's saying what. Email, forward it off. You could forward to the wrong person.
Oh, he's done.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And also the assurance, like email is such a Jurassic way of doing things, where you send an email and even where do we do that? They're like, okay, we send an email to a customer. And then if the email fails, then I need to do something. And I'm like, how do you know that the email failed? I don't know. Doesn't it tell you? No, it doesn't. It goes out. And if it makes it, makes it. If it doesn't, maybe 5 minutes later, you get a response from the mail daemon saying that was not delivered. But it's not an API where you get a direct response. So the more you understand about the risks associated with using email and how challenging it is, the more people will go, all right, well, let's try something modern. Like think of, do I ride a horse or do I take a car? Something like that.
I've been in a very similar position, financial services company, a lot of email. What worked really well for us was using Teams for our internal communication, leaving email for client facing, that kind of stuff. We got our Teams adoption really good internally, and then we've made spaces for each of our work groups, and over time they just naturally started. And there's still a lot of client communication through email because that's how we communicate. But it was kind of building that place where they felt comfortable. COVID definitely helped. And then from there, they kind of had their little spaces and they started adopting it and doing it in their ways. And we've supported the different groups in different ways. But that worked quite well for us.
Anybody here working for ANZ? No? Okay.
Small contract, but
Okay. So I believe that ANZ has a policy that if you email a document, attach an email to a document, and then send it outside of the network, someone will come and escort you out of the premise. It's that strict. You're not allowed to do that. And they do have technology controls to stop you from doing that. Definitely have technology controls to notify you that you've done that and come and talk to you. But sometimes that's what it takes, right? So just to be very, very clear. Another example, and I heard that story actually last week. Someone took a copy of a document on a USB stick, and then they went on holiday and they forgot the USB stick at the resort. They got fired, their boss got fired, their boss's boss got fired, right? So you have to adhere with this digital principles and what you can and cannot do, especially if you're dealing with sensitive data. Yeah. So when it's once you start policing it that way, then people will go, all right, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to learn from that person that got fired. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's a good question. Good question. How many of you guys are sort of more on the low code rather than the pro code side of things?
So low code hands up.
Citizenship developers.
Pro code hands up.
Yeah.
One.
Pro code 2, 3.
And then random hangers on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good balance. Yeah, it's again, there's no right or wrong, but it's definitely a balance between the two where you can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and get the most out of it. And this is something definitely that we're encouraging to be part of the community. Microsoft also acknowledges that. I know they're talking a lot about low code, no code, and sometimes the message goes the wrong way. A CIO would go and attend a conference like Build and Ignite, where at the highlight, they talk about all of this. Oh, we're the best in low code, no code, and all of that. But then there are a lot of sessions that actually talk about pro code stuff. Someone made a comment. They're like, Satya Nadella sounds more like an engineer rather than, a CEO. And that's because by heart, he loves the technology. And that's why, he's so successful in what he's doing. He understands it and he can articulate the idea of what you can do with that technology very well. And then you go and talk to a lot of product managers at Microsoft, and they do talk about that pro code experience to allow people to still do those things. Because again, you might be able to do 80% of what you want to do with a low code configuration, but then that 20% still needs to be catered for, and they acknowledge it. I was talking to the people working on Power FX, so the new formula like Excel stuff. And they did say JavaScript is there to stay for model driven because we acknowledge that we cannot resolve everything with Power FX. It's not going to away, and it will still be there. But then the question becomes, now I've got 2 ways, 3 ways, 4 ways of doing it. Which one do I choose? And this is where experience and maturity comes in. Yeah. So today I think was it Bernie who demonstrated the Figma stuff? Yeah. Anybody tried that? No. You tried it? Yeah. You tried it? Yeah. Any feedback? Any things you like, you don't like about it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I had the same issue as well. So when I first tried it, I did 2 tests. The first one is exactly how they said it would work. So I took a piece of paper, I drew like text boxes and labels, scanned that, hey, it worked. And then I took it through a real example. Like I went to Lotus Notes, I took a screenshot of an app in Lotus Notes and I loaded it, nothing worked. Because it's like it does have limitations, and it's something that they're working on to improve. Is how much of that can be done out of the box, and then gradually introducing those new features. And if you think about it, we used to have form recognition was sort of in the same boat. So when they first started with AI Builder doing form recognition, it could only do labels that are exactly above or on the left. I think it didn't do anything else. And it had to be like in a specific format and so on. Now it's a little bit more flexible in understanding those forms, and it understands context. It can extract values part of a contract that is standard contract, understand entities and so on. So it's getting really advanced, even like multi-page tables and so on. So I think they definitely use it like an MVP approach, like let's build something that works for a little bit of what we're trying to achieve, and then gradually enhance it over time. Yeah.
More of just a general question, but we heard about Level Up today and fetching XML. Are there any other useful tools that maybe other people have used? I know those are I heard of XRM Toolbox as well.
Yeah, so XRM Toolbox is plugin based. So XRM Toolbox has many other tools in it. I know the guy that built it. He's a French guy. His name is Tanguy Toussard. When I first became an MVP and I went to Seattle, was the first time that I met him in person. I was like, can I take a selfie with you? You're like a celebrity in the community. And yeah, I took a picture with him. And there was another MVP. His name was Nick Dolman. He now works for Microsoft, and he was a Power Pages or Power Apps Portals expert. And then he told me an interesting story. He said, I went and at XRM Toolbox, when you download it, you've got a donate button. So you can go and donate some money. And he's like, I use it so much. I went and donated $5. And he said he got an email back from Tanguy saying, you're the first person that ever donated.
Oh,
like all that work, all of that thing.
Now I feel like I've got to go donate some money.
Exactly. Like buy him a beer. I'm like, you know what? For the rest of the summit, I'll buy you your beer. It's not a problem. but yeah, I mean, so again, like his vision was to build a platform for other tools to come into it, and now he has hundreds of tools. Jonas Rapp is another good one. He built Fetch XML Builder on top of the XML toolbox. What's his name? Scott Duro, he built his Ribbon workbench to work on XRM Toolbox and so on. So this is one of the main tools that I use. Level Up is more of a like not really a productivity tool, but like something that helps you navigate around limitations in the platform.
I use the metadata browser for Dynamics. It's a little plugin for Edge. It's very similar to the Level Up stuff. It's probably a little more simple, but it's quite handy to understand the metadata in behind all the entities. But the sort of things I do are nowhere near as sophisticated as the cool stuff Rami does. So
yeah, I'm just trying to think. If you're a pro dev, then you've got extensions that were built by the community for your development. So for example, if you're doing unit testing, there's two frameworks available out there. One is done by a Spanish guy called Jordi Montaña for faking the context of your Dynamics connection or Dataverse connection. The other one is done by Daryl Labar. Both of them brilliant guys. Jordi recently turned his commercial, so you have to pay a license, whereas Labar's is still free. But that helps you with unit testing and faking context. The other thing is on the DevOps side. So out of the box, if you have Azure DevOps, you've got lots of extensions that Microsoft is working on and delivering. There's another MVP based in the UK called Wael Hamze, and he built all those DevOps connectors.
He built some tool for Power for the application lifecycle management.
Exactly. Yeah.
We use that one for the time being. Then Microsoft comes up with their own solution.
Yeah.
Now I have a doubt. Like recently, I saw that ALM is integrated with the Power App. So what's the like? What are you currently using the like this kind of like a third-party tools or like that going to be disappear in that case?
Not quite. I don't believe so. And there is a reason for that. Microsoft will not publish something that is not best practice, even though it might be easy to do or it might be a necessary shortcut for a dev environment or something like that. If it's not doing the right thing, Microsoft will say, will not release anything to do with it. Whereas Wael is independent and he can do whatever he wants. And if there's demand for it, people will use it. Like Level Up, go in God mode, Microsoft's not going to release that, but an MVP would do that, right? So this is why I was actually monitoring those two projects closely. Wael's one had like 10,000 downloads, whereas Microsoft one had 1,000 downloads, and then gradually they sort of equaled out. So there's still a bit of advantage in using his approach because you can do things with his framework that Microsoft doesn't allow you to do. But having said that, the Microsoft one is quite mature now. We use it on a day-to-day basis, and it's fit for purpose.
So, something related with the data ALM things actually. So currently we implementing the Center of Excellence. We built another environment, and we put that COE modules over there and tell that okay, you have to monitor other things actually. Are we going to Microsoft is going to be integrate something with inside some environment like rather than build another separate environment and put COE like any kind of plan or something like that?
go for it, mate.
So I once had a one-on-one call with the team that built the Center of Excellence, so the PowerCat team basically, and they've got lots of accelerators, but lots of things. The program manager that looks after this entire piece of work, he said our goal is ensure that you don't need any of our tools. Right? The ultimate goal is that everything that you see in the COE will be built into the platform, part of the native look and feel and capabilities. The only reason why their team exists is because they go at a much faster pace than what the actual product team can go.
Okay.
So there is a need in the market, as we said this morning, and that's a common problem, right? So I think I've heard it from at least 3-4 people today, that people love the Power Platform. They love what they can do with the automation and all of that. They start using it, and then, it turns into a mess. It turns into Lotus Notes, and turns into Access, into Excel, into whatever. And then there's no governance. So Microsoft straight away said, well, let's do the Center of Excellence. If we want to embed it, part of the product itself is going to take ages. Let's spin up this PowerCat team to be able to deliver all of those really quickly. And they managed to do that. So they go at a faster pace. They deliver those values, but then eventually they will move into the products.
So managed environments was just announced recently at Ignite, right? That's the first step into moving a lot of those functions into the administration center, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll take time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also the tenant level analytics that arrived a couple of months ago.
Yeah. So they had ways of sort of exporting analytics using Power BI and using Power Automate, and all of those were add-ons that you can do part of the accelerators. Now they're turning them part of the product. So yeah, definitely going towards that direction. Cool. Any other questions? Anything else?
One of the things that I've been looking to do for myself to develop for the clients is the Outlook plugins and the Word and Excel plugins. I've kind of followed the Microsoft Learn step-by-step guide, and there's a small chunk of assumed knowledge there. Where do I find that assumed knowledge? Because I'm not a coder. A few years ago, I was a financial advisor. And I picked this up because it's necessary for the clients. Like, financial advisor security is non-existent. But is there a good resource that will actually teach me the basics of Visual Studio Code, actually assuming I know nothing? Because it's not just me, I know quite a few people that I've shown them Power Apps, like they've started playing with the Power Apps I've supplied and started building their own. And the end result is, how do I do more?
Yeah.
Is there a resource out there for?
Yeah, this is actually it's a great perspective, first of all, and also it's a common problem. I'm working right now on an integration with Realme using Azure B2C. I don't know how Realme works. I don't know, what those tokens are. I don't know how to configure Azure B2C, and it's overwhelming. And every time I read some documentation says, and you go to Azure B2C and you do that, and I'm like, what is that? How do I do it? Where do I find this information? So it's a common problem for anyone learning something new in technology. And I think the way I do it is that I go down some specific routes where, like, for example, I go on either YouTube channels of people that I follow usually that might give me that answer. I really like the old school approach of on-demand training. So I usually have a Pluralsight subscription. And like last year, or not last year, maybe 3-4 years ago, when PCF became quite big, so code components, building custom controls for Dynamics and Dataverse is mainly something that requires front-end development. And I was a bit rusty in that space. So Christmas came, spent some time just upskilling myself, going through those courses, and now I understood how that worked. And then I did my PCF controls. I was like, okay, now I get it, what this means and why they're doing that and why they're doing that. So you need to do a little bit of either sort of offline upskilling first to get that knowledge, and then go back and read those documents, and they would make more sense. The other thing is give feedback, right? So either provide feedback. I think, I don't know if on the Learn pages you've got comments or feedback sections.
Not on Learn, but I think you can provide feedback.
Yeah.
There's a mechanism to do it, but it'd be a good one to say, these particular things, these assumed knowledge, you should probably have a blurb up the top to say, if you want to learn how to do this, extra stuff, go here or look here or ask this person. Yeah.
It's the go here. I can follow the guide and do the hello world bit.
Exactly.
It doesn't, that's just a hit, you run this. So, cool. What's that?
And I think there's also, if it's something that fundamentally needs a certain skill, call it out. Don't let just anybody try it out. Actually say, if you're going to do this, you probably should have already had X amount of experience doing this kind of development. If you haven't, go and do that and then come back. Because yeah, it's very easy to find that learning stuff, but I'm the same. I get lost in some of these things. I'm like things getting into Azure and all this sort of stuff that I probably shouldn't, but I do anyway and get myself into a lot of trouble.